Found out my wife cheated 12 years ago, 8 months after we were married. I never imagined that the life I built over 13 years of marriage could be shaken by a secret buried deep within our shared past. My wife and I met in 2008 while working as waitstaff at a busy restaurant setting where friendships were easily forged and personal boundaries sometimes blurred. Despite our rocky beginnings, we fell in love and, after dating for a couple of years, married in September 2012. The early years were anything but smooth. Back then, I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, striving to create a better life for us. My focus was entirely on building our future, and I believed that all sacrifices were worth it. Meanwhile, my wife, charismatic, friendly, and effortlessly making friends, navigated her own complexities. Before we even started dating, she had developed a peculiar relationship with our boss. The situation was as unusual as it was messy. Our boss's wife had proposed an open marriage, and in an effort to balance things out, he found someone to be intimate with. That person turned out to be my future wife. They were physically involved about a dozen times before we officially began our romance. When the subject eventually came up, my wife told me honestly that there was no emotional connection with him. It was merely a misguided attempt to make our boss's troubled marriage seem balanced. She reassured me that their relationship was purely physical and that nothing deeper ever developed. I was determined to look ahead and focus on the promising career that I had begun to build. As she continued working as a waitress while finishing school, I trusted her words, even though a small part of me remained uneasy about her connection with him. Despite that lingering concern, we forged ahead and got married in 2012. Our wedding was a joyful celebration, attended by our coworkers, including that very boss who served as an undeniable reminder of that complicated past. For a brief time, it seemed that our love and trust would weather any storm. However, a few months into our marriage, on the 4th of July, 2013, I stumbled upon something on her phone that would later haunt me. While handing me her phone for a routine request, she left it unattended, and I noticed a series of text messages from him. The messages were deceptively innocent. At first, "I wish I could bring you breakfast in bed. I wish you were here," yet they carried a weight of intimacy that betrayed his true intentions. In that moment, I was overwhelmed by a sense of betrayal and foolishness. I felt as though I had been living in denial, blinded by the love I had for her. That year, barely a full year into our marriage, we were constantly arguing. The arguments grew even more intense due to my heavy drinking at the time, and the trust between us began to crumble. In an attempt to salvage our relationship, I confronted her about her ongoing communication with him. She dismissed my concerns by insisting that he was just a friend, and that I had no right to control who she befriended. In my vulnerable state, I chose to believe her, clinging to the hope that our marriage was strong enough to withstand these trials. She eventually found a new job and largely severed ties with him, at least on the surface. Years passed, and life continued its relentless pace. Amid the chaos of juggling demanding work hours, I managed to achieve a promising career breakthrough by purchasing the business where I once labored. This allowed me more time to spend with my wife and our growing family. After overcoming a few struggles with fertility, your daughter was born. After our third round of IVF, we welcomed 2 more daughters over the next 3 years. Suddenly, life was no longer just about work or financial success. It was a tapestry woven with the everyday moments of raising 3 young children, enjoying family vacations, and simply finding solace in each other's company during lazy weekends in bed. We had built what many would consider the dream life: a beautiful home, the cars we had always desired, a thriving business, and most importantly, a loving family. Yet beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life, an undercurrent of doubt had never fully vanished. Every so often, as the years rolled by, a niggling thought crept into my mind. What if she hadn't been entirely truthful with me? I managed to suppress these doubts for a long time, buoyed by the successes we had achieved together. Then, 6 months ago, something changed. During a phone conversation with a friend, my wife casually mentioned a work-related comment and then added, "Oh well, he's oblivious," referring to me. That offhand remark shattered the fragile peace I had maintained, igniting a sense of betrayal that had long been simmering beneath the surface. In a desperate attempt to confirm my worst fears, I spent the next 5 months meticulously searching through old phones, laptops, tablets, and even rummaging through purses. I was determined to piece together a timeline of our past, hoping to find evidence that would validate the creeping suspicion I had harbored for so long. Eventually, I found fragments of old text, small, insignificant messages that didn't provide definitive proof but were enough to spark a confrontation. On the 23rd of December of last year, with my heart pounding and emotions on high alert, I confronted her about the possibility of another secret. The moment I brought it up, she broke down in tears, asking, "Why now?" In that raw, painful moment, she confessed. She had been unfaithful not just once, but twice with him. According to her, those encounters happened when she felt profoundly lonely, when she believed I was too mean, and when she craved the kindness and attention he seemed to offer. She insisted that the sexual encounters were devoid of passion or genuine connection. She described them as unsatisfying, even awkward, emphasizing that it wasn't about him as a person but rather a desperate, misguided attempt to fill a void. Her confession was laced with apologies and declarations of remorse. She swore on our children's lives that nothing more had ever happened between them, just those two isolated, regrettable incidents. What made it even more painful was not just the betrayal itself, but the fact that she had hidden it from me for over a decade. The foundation of our incredible life, the trust, the shared dreams, the family we built had been tainted by a lie. The realization that everything we had worked for was, in part, based on deception, sent me into a spiral of panic attacks, sleepless nights, and an overwhelming sense of loss. I found myself stuck on a roller coaster of intense arguments, fleeting moments of intimacy, and bouts of despair that sometimes led me to leave home for a couple of nights in a bid to escape the suffocating pain. Even as she tried to prove her remorse by being open and willing to do whatever it took to rebuild my trust, the truth continued to echo in my mind. We were now at a crossroads, facing not only the challenge of healing our relationship, but also the daunting task of protecting our 3 beautiful daughters and preserving the business we had built together. Every day felt like a battle between the love I still felt for her and the deep-seated betrayal that gnawed at my soul. I am now at a loss, torn between a past filled with both joy and sorrow and an uncertain future that I never saw coming. The question that haunts me is whether our marriage, with all its hard-won victories, can survive this revelation, or if the cracks in our foundation will eventually cause everything to crumble. As I grapple with this heartache, I search for guidance, trying to understand if forgiveness is possible and what steps we should take to move forward, or if the betrayal is too deep to ever fully overcome.